Hello, I'm Mike and welcome to the workshop. This week I'm going to show you how I made this small machinist chest just out of scraps of plywood. So, let's roll the intro. This project starts pretty much the same as the last one, with me going through my stockpile of bits of plywood and getting all the pieces out that I need. I've done up a fairly detailed parts list for myself for this project because it involves quite a lot of parts, because we have the main carcass, we have a lid, and then we have those 4 drawers. So I won't bore you with going through all that. That took a little bit of time. So we'll just cut ahead here now to design, and I'll show you how we made it. Right, so we have our parts out. Let's have a look here at our design. This is going to follow pretty closely the design of a machinist's toolbox. So we're going to have a store in the top for our larger tools, and then a series of different height shelves for the different things that we're going to have, nuts, parts, files, that kind of stuff. And then down the front I'm actually going to put a piece which will lock in these drawers to stop them falling out, so when I move it I don't end up with trouble. But the easiest way to show you is to show me making it. So let's get down here and make our carcass. Now our carcass is going to be made out of 12mm ply, give it that extra bit of strength, and our shelves / drawers are going to be 9mm. That'll reduce the weight and allow me to put more stuff in it, hopefully. So let's get down to the bench. Right, so starting our base, this will just be glued and brad nailed, and as per the other scrap plywood project, this is all about function and not fashion. So I'm using stuff based on what sizes I have. So let's go. So what I've done is I've cut the sides of my drawers at the exact height of the opening for a minute, and I'll then be using those in here like this to act as spacers, so I can put in my solid shelves and make sure that I have the right spacing all the way up and that to stay true and flush. Now the next thing I'm going to do, glue and nail this in and build these up towards the top. as these shells or dividers, whichever way you want to put it, are only 12mm thick, it's very important that I mark my lines around at the center of that 12mm, and that's where I'll be putting my lined nails, especially when I get up into the tighter gaps with the drawers above this and the very top drawer, which is only 20mm wide. If I miss it, particularly near the back, it'll be almost impossible to cut those nails. So taking the extra little time here to mark everything and make sure I get those nails exactly on line is well worth it. And rinse and repeat till all of these are done. It's important if you're doing this to take your time, because these dividers are what your drawers are going to slide on. Now we have all our shelves in. Our dividers are not technically shelves, but I'll put nothing in them. They are shelves. The last piece is this here, which forms the front of the box. This will be what we'll be putting our latch on, with the piece that comes here to stop the drawers opening out. That's just glued and nailed, same as everything else. Now I'm using nature's very own glue spreader here. I probably shouldn't, but I was being a little bit lazy. And this, boys and girls, is why you should never have your hand anywhere near where the nails are coming in. Yow! Could you imagine if my hand had been there? So it can happen so easily. If you're going at a slight angle or it hits a hard part of the material, it can go straight up through it. So be careful out there. The top is pretty much the same as everything else. We're just making a box, essentially. So I won't go into too much detail. It's all glued and nailed, as you can see me doing here, and then we are pretty much so good to go. So just cut across till it's done. Now with the main body all assembled, we're going to start working on the drawers. So one concession I did make here in terms of design is I kept one piece that I'm going to make all my drawer fronts out of, so the grain should be the same. Just gives it a little extra nicety. Now I've already pre-cut all these for my bottom, and I'm making it about 2mm less high, about 3mm less wide than the void here. Gives a little bit of space to go in and out. We'll be spraying these and then giving them a heavy coat of wax. Same thing inside, we put a bit of wax in just to help guide it in and out. So go back to gluing and nailing. We'll put this first one together, see if it works, and then we'll progress. Right, so now we have our first drawer done. Now we'll be making little handles out of plywood for all of these, but just for the moment I've marked where my lock piece is going, and I divided out that space evenly. Then that's where our handles will be going. I marked our center point. I'm just going to stick a couple of screws in it just for now for testing, because we're going to adjust each of these to make sure they're absolutely perfect. We don't want to run into trouble. So Bradall, screwy, here we go. No, I'm not going to go through with these, but it wouldn't matter if I did, because we'd be screwing certainly the bottom what's we're looking for? Handles in from the inside, so these will be drilled through. Well, like this is a little handle for testing. Let's have a look at how we're going. So even though I left a fair amount of space, I want to put a bit of an ear on top of that. So I'm probably going to sand a little bit off the top. You can hear, if I stop talking, you hear that rubbing. It's just on that far side, probably a little bit high. So I'll attack that with a bit of sandpaper. And we'll keep going until everything sort of goes in smooth. Now, there is a little bit of an edge here on the bottom as well, so I'll just attack that with my I can use sandpaper as well. I have my little block plane. But I'll just keep adjusting everything until I'm happy. Might be a back edge here, so we'll just take the back corner off, and behind the face plate by the drawer plate, and knock off the corners. I want to keep it square to front, so I'm just stopping my plane when I get to the facade, or facade, whatever I want to say it. It's much better now. I think I'll leave it for a minute. I'll do the rest of them and then we'll come back. And after much fettling and fitting, we have 4 functioning drawers. There's a lot of F's in one sentence. But boy oh boy was I effing glad to get this done. Now that our drawers are glued up and cleaned and ready to go, we're going to add a small strip of plywood to the back of them to adjust them in and out. I'll just be tacking this on with a few drops of glue. The reason for this is it's an awful lot easier to shave a little bit off this or add a little bit to it than to try change the whole back of the drawer. So to start here, it's very simple. Just going to put a couple of drops of super glue on this so it's easy to remove if I need to in the future, if I want to come up with a different locking system or different adjustable system. So we'll just line that up pretty good. Whenever I'm happy. And just cove a couple little drops of cyanoacrylic glue. That's pretty good. And just temporarily clamp it down while the super glue does its thing. Then 30 seconds or so, we'll be able to see where we are and make any adjustments as necessary. We'll just then repeat that for all the other drawers. Make sure that we're all nice and flush up the front, so that when we put in this piece here, the locking piece, all the drawers sit against it and don't slide in and out. Just test this one now. And that, as it happens, is pretty much so perfect. So, the other three, and then we can move on to the next thing. I realise in the last few weeks my videos have become almost non-stop irononaging. If you enjoy this, you're welcome. If you don't, I can guarantee you next week's video does not feature any irononaging. All the visible edges of plywood get irononaging, along with a few strips on the side of the lid because I had to make it a little bit smaller. This really does help the overall aesthetic, so it was worth the couple of hours I spent edging and cutting and sanding. Right, so now we have our drawers done. We're going to make our handles. Handles are just going to be very simple. I'm going to cut a few strips here out of 12mm with a 45-degree angle on it. We'll sand those up and those will be our little handles. Be able to just put our knuckle under them, pull them out, grab them. And the side handles are the same, only this is out of a piece of 18mm. I just dowel these in because I can't get in to screw them. Apply plenty of glue on them, clamp them together, and they should hold forever, hopefully. For the drawers, I can't screw the handles in, so I've pre-bored here through the face of my drawer, and I'm just temporarily holding the handles on with a bit of super glue, and then from the inside, using some 3mm screws, I just fix those handles on so they never pull off on me when I don't want them to. We're very much so in the home stretch now. The last bit of making to do on this before I finish it is I want to bore for this little lock here that'll stop the drawers falling out. And this is very simple. I'll just be putting a couple of dowels in the bottom of this, that will seat in the bottom of the unit, and then we'll be putting a little catch, one of these guys, across this, so that'll lock down to stop the drawers coming out, and I don't want them to. Also means then I'll be able to just open the drawers, use the drawer when I want to, if I don't want to use the top. The top will also be held in place with a couple of those. So, let's stand up here now. I've marked, let's see if it'll show up, mightn't show up. I've marked here for where my two dowels are going to go and my centre line. I have a matching centre line here. So, I'll pull this a little bit forward so I can get at it here. So just line up those two centre lines and mark where my dowels are going. And then I can scribe a line inside. I'm marking half the distance of our material. In this case it is 12mm, so it'll be a 6mm piece. So I'll just get in there, mark that at 6. We don't have the space here to use the little dowel pins which I use to put on these handles. So we'll just do it the old fashioned way with careful marking. And these won't, I'll be drilling at a weird angle here because I don't have space, but I'll be wallowing them out a bit anyway, because this is only really to hold this in place to stop it coming out. It doesn't give us any sort of structural strength. I did a full mute here because this tiny little drill I have is stuck on hammer for some reason, and it's unpleasant in the workshop, so definitely would be unpleasant in the video. And just to aid with the fit here, I'm actually cutting the back of the dowels off, which will help because of that angle I've had to drill in, just to make sure everything sits the way I want it to. Yeah, that worked pretty well. A little bit of trickery with the dowels, but as I said, the dowels are not actually important in this really. They're just to stop this falling out. So just for the crack, I'm going to put this latch on and see if it works. Now, because these are designed for the lid to close down, I have to cut off this little tab here, so it'll allow me to have the locking part on the bar. So I'll just go over and do that with my Dremel tool off camera. Safe enough to say, that works. Now, finishing. So, much like I did in the previous project thingy-mabob up here, just to add a little bit of visual interest, I'm going to stain this. Rather guitar appropriate, I'm going to use Indian rosewood here. And I'll give it 2 coats on the main body of the box. And I'll just be clear coating the shells. Again, gives us a nice shells, drawers, gives us a nice contrast. So, let's get to it. Now that it's stained, time to apply some clear lacquer. Nasty, smelly stuff. I know you've been waiting for it. It's Danish Oil Time. Rightio. So our Danish oil is dried, and I have taped my lid on here. I've shown this method in the previous video in this series. Just helps keep everything in line. And I prepared my piano hinge, which we used in the previous video as well. So we're going to attach this, and then the locks at the side here. And the last thing we're going to do then is, for our two 30mm drawers, we're going to make up some little dividers. The top won't have any dividers at the minute, nor will the thin or big drawers. So this is just a matter of lining up your piano hinge, or the gap between your side and your lid, and using one of these, a bradawl, to get it started, and put in our tiny little screws. So when I do this, I like to start with one on either side. So I have a screw here and a screw here into two pieces, and as I go along then I tend to alternate. So the next one I'll do with this one, then this one, side to side. Here's are like tiny laces, just helps keep everything in line. These are slightly too big to screw, but they're the only ones I have, 3.5s. Ideally these would be 3s. Now, let's see if that has worked. The tape will hold it in place whether it's right or wrong. So you can't see it, but that went straight in. You know what? I'm going to kick that out of the bed for eating crisps. Alright. So, we'll put our locks here. We'll start off on one side. I'll actually bring the tape back here, just to keep it closed at the front. So these are very simple. Very simple two-part locks. So one side goes on your lid, the other side goes on the body. They line up like that. The hook goes over the top. You close it and it's all cinched together. So I'm going to get tape, pencil, both of which I should have in a workshop. The eagle eye of you would have noticed that I've been wearing a tape all this time. I noticed this when I left the workshop, hours later. The rattling is my keychain hitting against said tape. Find our center point here. 125. Now the oils on this pencil will come off, I hope. I'm not going for anything special here, I'm just going to hide this. I did exactly the same thing on the other side. Where our lid is. well. Opens really well. Closes and cinches down. Good. Now we'll just put back in our drawers and check that our front piece is still working, and then we'll have a look at those dividers. Okay, so let's have a look at these dividers. This is very simple. I've already done this one. This one has quite large areas, and the next one I'm going to put in 3 of these dividers, which will give me 10 spaces. And this is just simply 3mm ply I've glued together, give me 6mm. And it's all just press fit in here at the minute, but I will eventually put a drop of glue on it. I'll just get it out here. And all we're using here is half lap joinery. So it's sort of self-explanatory. You're cutting a half to take some material away, the same width as the material, and those two things then slide in together, they end up flush. It's a simple little joint, it keeps everything sort of coplanar, and if they're tight they don't fall out, but it keeps everything coplanar. And in this case, like I said, I have this loose, but I will be putting a little drop of glue just to hold this in place, but not so much that in the future, if I wanted to, I couldn't just pop it out easily and divide it up in a different way. When I'm sure of that, I'll just put a few little drops at the bottom here just to temporarily hold it in place. Like I said, I want it to be temporary because I might decide, oh, I want to divide this out a different way. So if it's only a couple of drops of glue, it's easy enough to pop this back out. So we'll put this drawer in where it belongs, and we'll start dividing up this one. We'll start here, we're going to square up an edge, and we'll be cutting it, this is the long one, so we'll be cutting it to the exact width, and we'll do the same with our 3 short dividers, and then we will start cutting our half laps. So 3, 5, 6, which is refreshing because it's exactly what it should be. These do have a good and a bad face, so I want to make sure I'm always marking from that good face. Now, the reason I'm using 2 3mm rather than 1 6mm is twofold. One, I didn't quite have enough 6mm to do this, but 2, by gluing the 2 3mm together, I have more layers of veneer, which means that it's actually much stiffer over that height and width than a similar piece of 6mm would be. And just do the same for cutting our shorter pieces. Cut off one square edge and then cut it the exact width, and then we can look at cutting our half laps. I want the long piece to master all these short ones, so all of my half laps on these ones will be coming out of the finished side, and the long one will go across like this with its finished side up and look like it's all divided. So there's not much working out on these ones. I'll do one first. What we're going to do is find the center of this. So I know this is 201 in the shake, so the center will be 100.5, give or take. So I'll just double check that. I have 100.5. I'll be marking all the other ones off this when I have it done. Oh, this will be seen, so we'll just score most of the way down here. That's our halfway point. And the thickness of our material is 6, so we'll go to 3 here on our rule. Mark it 3 and 6, so we get our points to strike from. We'll just mark that now. So if you're using half laps for important or fine joinery, they do need to be exactly half of the material, so you have glue on all those surfaces. But in this case it's not really vital, so I'm just going to make it easy for myself and make them slightly deeper than half. They're 18 or 19, so I'm just going to come down to about 9.5. I'm not even going to square it, I'm just going to mark it by eye. We'll be chopping this out with a chisel. What I want to do then is just transfer these lines up to the top. Good side. And we're going to just cut to those lines using our fine saw. Now I don't want these too sloppy, I want them to be tight if they can be on the sides. The depth I'm not as concerned about. We'll just take that line we marked, sit our chisel on it, and just give it a little tippy tappy. And all that just pops out. Just give it a test for the width. That is a little bit, it's okay, but it is a little bit gappier than I want. Now I'll be marking all the rest of them off these, so I'll make note when I'm marking all of these to just go inside the line when I'm cutting. Put that one down. We'll just mark the open point here and here. I'll do the exact same thing until we have 3 pieces like that. And the center divider is the exact same principle, only we divide the space out so the 3 of them are spaced evenly. As you can see here, slatted work just goes together. We push it in, and then a few little drops of glue on the ends and just where they join. Just a little bit of water tin super glue, it'll wick in. That'll just hold it in position as much as we need for this. And as I said ad nauseum earlier in the video, I can easily then change it. And now for the fun part. Let's fill this puppy. As they say, is that. Thank you as always for staying to the end of the video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and absolutely do try this at home. Make sure you tune in next week where
I won't be making something out of plywood. It'll be something completely different.
Our carcass is made out of 12mm. Make it nice and rough. So I start on our base here. And again, this is all about... That was a great line I couldn't remember. Right, so now...